Hey, it's that time again. Time for another episode of Shelve It or Shove It, that completely superficial way to pick books for your TBR based solely on their covers. I'm your host, Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. This is a game where I look at the covers and only the covers of new releases in science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and shelf books that I like by the cover and then pick one to add to my TBR. And as usual, we're going to start with science fiction. And first up is Where the Axe is Buried by Ray Naylor, author of Mountain in the Sea. And this is an interesting cover. I like sort of this purple motif with the words kind of blurred. That's kind of cool. And then there's this city in this glass cube, I think. It's very cartoony. That's kind of putting me off, and I have no idea what this story could be about. So for that reason, I'm going to shove it. Next up is Terrestrial History by Joe Mungo Reed. Ugh, this is not a great cover. There's this very large gray border around it for the text, and it's inset with the scene of this, I guess, this sun over a landscape. This looks very amateur Photoshop to me. I am not a fan, so I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. No one gets out alive. Now, I've read an S.A. Barnes before. I read one of their science fiction short stories, Ghost Station, I believe it was called, that I got from Shelve It or Shove It. And I did enjoy that quite a lot. And I do like this cover. I like there's this person in suspended animation or cryogenics, and there's something scurrying around outside it. I like that. I like the author. I like the cover. So you know I'm going to shelve it. Next up is Notes from a Regicide by Isaac Fellman. And there is a recommendation blurb by Jen Shapland, who is a National Book Award finalist. I don't know who Jen Shapland is. So just looking at the cover, Notes from a Regicide, which is the killing of a king or queen, I guess. And I'm going to guess time travel. And there's this portrait that looks like it has some type of static or glitch over it. Not that interested. Not really drawn to this cover. And I'm kind of picky when it comes to time travel stories. So I'm going to have to shove it. And finally, in science fiction, One Way Witch by Nnedi Okorafor, who is a Hugo, Nebula, and World Fantasy Award-winning author. And this is book 2. She Who Knows, book 2. I do like the cover. There's this person's face that's kind of young, and then a person's face that's kind of old. So I'm not really quite sure what that means. Maybe it's reincarnation or different times. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to pick up a book 2. Even though I've read one thing by Nnedi Okorafor, Noor, and I've been wanting to read more. It's not going to be this. So that means I am going to shove it. Now we move on to fantasy, and first up is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett in Anna and Den Mystery. Now, I've seen this type of cover before, so I believe I've seen this series. I'm assuming it's a series by this author before, because this is the branded cover of this series with the 4 people in the corners. It's under fantasy. I like it says an Anna and Den mystery, so I'm wondering if these are standalone mystery novels, which I might be interested in, but I don't know. I'm having a lot of questions on what this could be about, especially since it's in the fantasy category, and it looks like some of these figures appear. It looks like there's an Asian person with one of those coolie hats, and then there's a person with a halberd. I'm having a lot of questions. A lot of questions. I think I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. Name sounds familiar. Have not read anything by this person. Money is a family business. Magic is a family curse. Love that byline. And Gifted and Talented usually refers to high school or lower grades, sort of advanced courses like Gifted and Talented English or biology or math or whatever. Anyway, I assume this means Gifted and Talented in Magic, contemporary fantasy, I'm assuming. And there's this magic swirl that's sort of putting everyone a little bit out of phase, maybe. I kind of like this cover. And I'm kind of intrigued. New York bestselling author of the Atlas 6. Okay, I have heard of that, and I have heard of the author. And I am intrigued by this cover. I wish it didn't look quite so cartoony, but anyway. I think I'm going to go ahead and shelve it. Next up is The Ash Fire King by Chelsea Abdullah. And gosh, I feel like I just saw this last month, but not impressed with A Bird in a Cage, even though it looks like there's this magic stuff going around it. It's not really telling me much, and it's making me think it's generic fantasy. So I'm going to have to shove it. Next up is Enchantra by Kaylee Smith. And I like it says a dark fantasy romance right off the cuff because I'm not into romantasy. It's just not for me. There's a 2 at the top, so I'm wondering if this is part 2 of a series. And the cover just looks kind of generic to me. There's a skull with some flowers. How many times have we seen that? Quite a few. So I'm going to have to shove it. And finally in fantasy, When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vita Kelly. And it looks like it's a gay romance with a mermaid or merman involved. I'm not into romantasy, even if it's a gay romantasy. You know, I used to think I would be into romances, especially gay romances. But the more I've read of them, the more I realize that it's not for me, which is fine. Not every type of book can be for everyone. So, I mean, I like this cover. I have to say, I do like this cover. If you're into gay romantasies, I think you'll like this cover too. But the illustration is gorgeous, but I am just not into a romance, gay or otherwise. So I'm going to have to shove it. Now we're going to move on to horror. And first up is Adrian Tchaikovsky's Shroud. They looked into darkness, the darkness looked back. So I'm going to think it's going to be another science fiction horror. That S.A. Barnes book probably is too. And there is, I guess that's a spaceship, and there's, it almost looks like it's punctured into another spaceship. I'm not sure what that is around it. I'm intrigued. And I don't know if they're saying this book won the Arthur C. Clarke Award or just Adrian Tchaikovsky in general has won an Arthur C. Clarke Award. I'm reading right now the Tyrant Philosopher series. I've read the first 2 books, haven't read the third. And I think they are brilliant by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And I loved the final Architect series. So this is an author to watch out for. And since I've read their fantasy and I've read their science fiction, I'm kind of interested in their horror. And I do like this cover. I'm going to shelve it. Next up is The Poorly Made and Other Things, a story collection by Sam Rebelin. So this is an anthology. I've picked an anthology before by accident in horror. I'm not that interested in this one. The tree looks kind of cool with the glowing eyes in the center, but it's not enough to really tell me if there's a theme or what's going on in this collection. So I'm going to shut it. Next up is The Underwood Tapes by Amanda DeWitt. And there are cassette tapes floating around these two people. This is giving me young adult vibes. Now for these horror novels, I usually go to Goodreads new releases in horror and just pick a line of 5. And they could be anything. They could be adult, they could be different genres, they could be children's. Young adult is a children's book or children's demographic. So who knows? Even if this is young adult, I'm going to say it's retro or historical because you don't really see cassette tapes anymore. There's these two characters. It looks like a girl and a boy, but the boy looks like his face is sort of blurred out. So maybe he's like haunting the tapes or he's getting drawn into the past of these tapes. I don't know. A lot of questions. I am kind of intrigued. When I first saw this picture, I didn't think I was going to do this. But now that I've had time to marinate in this cover, I'm going to go ahead and shelve it. Next up is The Ghosts of The Ghosts of Bitterfly Bay. I like that better, by Mary Everling. This is definitely a kid's book, and I love those claws coming out of the water. And the person looks like a ghost. So maybe the main character is a ghost. That's kind of interesting. As you know, I write middle grade, so I don't really want to review middle grade on this channel. So I'm probably going to pick this up, but not for Shelve It or Shove It. So in that case, I'm going to shove it. And finally in horror, The Vengeful Dead by Darcy Coates. So zombie maybe? It says Gravekeeper number 5. So this is the 5th book in a series. Not interested in picking up book 5 in a series, much less picking up a series with at least 5 books. And the cover looks kind of generic. There's just this graveyard. There is a cat on the end of Vengeful. That's kind of cute. And a silhouette of a person. Nonetheless, I'm not really getting what type of book this is. I'm assuming zombie, but I'm not sure. So, yeah, I'm going to have to shove it. Okay, so I've shelved 1 science fiction, 1 fantasy, and 2 horrors. Is that right? Yeah, in science fiction, Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes. In fantasy, Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. And in horror, Adrian Tchaikovsky's Shroud and Amanda DeWitt's The Underwood Tapes. Okay, so now we need to narrow this down to 1 book. And I think it's interesting we get 2 science fiction horrors. So maybe we're going to go with one of those. Although Gifted and Talented, I am really curious about because that is an author I want to check out and I haven't already. I know I can't go wrong with Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'm curious about another S.A. Barnes book. I'm curious about what Underwood Tapes would be about. Okay, we're just going to go by the cover. Which cover of these do I like the most? And going to have to be Gifted and Talented by Livy Blake. I'm just so intrigued by this, by first the title, Gifted and Talented, and this rippling effect that's going through this family. I want to know more about that one. Second runner-up, I guess, is the Underwood tapes, because I have questions about that. Shroud and Cold Eternity are both cool, but I'm more intrigued by the cover of Gifted and Talented. Let's go ahead and read the blurb and see what I've gotten myself into. From the New York Times bestselling author of The Atlas Six comes the story of 3 siblings who, upon the death of their father, are forced to reckon with their long-festering rivalries, dangerous abilities, and the crushing weight of all their unrealized adolescent potential. Where there's a will, there's a war. Thayer Wren, the brilliant CEO of Renfair Magitech and so-called father of modern technology, is dead. Any one of his 3 telepathically and electrokinetically gifted children would be a plausible inheritor to the Renfair throne, or at least so they like to think. Meredith, textbook accomplished eldest daughter and the head of her own groundbreaking biotech company, has recently cured mental illness. You're welcome. If only her father's fortune wasn't her last hope for keeping her journalist ex-boyfriend from exposing what she really is, a total fraud. Arthur, second youngest congressman in history, fights a good fight every day of his life, and yet his wife might be leaving him and he's losing his re-election campaign. But his dead father's approval in the form of a seat on the Renfair throne might just turn his sinking ship around. Eileen, once the world's most famous ballerina, has spent the last 5 years as a run-of-the-mill marketing executive at her father's company after a life-altering injury put an end to her prodigious career. She might be lacking in accolades compared to her siblings, but if her father left her everything, it would finally validate her worth by confirming she'd been his favorite all along. On the pipeline of gifted kid to clinically depressed adult, nobody wins, but which Wren will come out on top? Okay, this is giving me vibes of HBO's Succession, with the kids who each want their own piece of the action. I wonder why they can't split it up 3 ways, but apparently only one's going to inherit their father's throne, so to speak. I'm really intrigued by this. I love family dramas. It's contemporary, it's paranormal, there's magic, and this is an author I really want to read. So I'm happy about this pick, but I want to know what book you would have picked based solely on their covers. Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, may all the books you read be blessed.